Well, welcome back to the channel, Old Cars New Van, and as you can see from the title sequence here, this is a very personal video, and I hope those watching will find some interest in what I'm about to share. Now, some of this will be a duplication. If you go back on previous videos on this channel, there is one on there about all the cars of my childhood. But now my dad has sadly passed away, I have gained access to some family photographs that I hadn't got previously and a little bit more information. So I felt it was appropriate to put this together as a bit of a tribute to him. Now you can tell from his date of birth that obviously the era of time in which he lived, people didn't automatically own cars. And indeed, his first vehicle was actually an ex-World War II Army Royal Enfield 350 Army messenger bike. He bought this in the summer of '46 and terrifyingly taught himself to ride. I can't imagine they got any sort of lessons or instructions in those days. So this really is his very first vehicle, if you like. And this is obviously a picture of him with his mum, my grandmother, proudly standing beside the motorbike. Now, Dad was at sea in the Merchant Navy during this time. So this really was just used when he was on leave on sort of land leave, as it were. And in about 49, he added to his collection, as it were, with his first car, which again, he taught himself to drive in and passed a test. I think there was a test, but again, you could sort of, bit of a free-for-all actually learning to drive. And that was this rather stunning green MG Midget. Absolutely beautiful looking thing. Now I have to admit that of all the photographs in this isn't actually his car, sadly. In his notes, in his diaries, I've got the year and I've got the fact that it was dark green. So this is a photograph that I've lifted off the internet. But the rest of them, I'm pretty sure are all genuine and his vehicles. But yeah, this was his first car, and he kept this until September '54, when having left the Navy, he actually decided to go back to university as a mature student. And he had to sell this, rather sadly, to fund his way. But he still had the motorbike. The motorbike saw him all the way through till 1958, when he finished university. And he bought another vehicle, a Commer Cob van, which you see here. This photograph's many years later. I think there was a big tax advantage in the day of having a small van rather than a car. I think it was a lot cheaper to tax, or there was some reason why he chose this sort of car-derived van rather than a car itself. But yes, this was his second vehicle in 1958, and he kept this, again, quite a long time, well into the sort of mid-60s, before replacing it with something a little bit more, well, comfy, really, and probably a bit more suitable for dating, should I say, because here's a photo of it, the Singer Gazelle, with my mum posing in front of it there. Dad always told me that he bought this car in the snow. The only car he's ever bought in the snow, and he always regretted it because about a year later it started rusting and he didn't see it when he bought it. So I don't think he actually had this one too long. I mean, not too long for my dad, was probably 3 or 4 years, you know, as you can tell. He wasn't really a car person. He liked a car because of the practicality of being able to get from A to B, but he wasn't into his exciting cars. So for him to change a car after just 3 years is quite a short tenureship. Now, I was born in 1969, and so we're fast forwarding now till the early 70s. As I say, Dad got rid of the Singer Gazelle relatively quickly and bought this Ford Cortina. This photograph has featured, as I mentioned before, in a previous video. But rather amusingly, this is me in 1971, something like that, in the same car. And yeah, I started early, didn't I? My love of cars. Look at this, taking over. I was very taken with the Ford Cortina. I love this photograph. So yeah, 71, and he kept that vehicle through to 74, 75. He always said he never liked the Cortina. I thought it was really cool, looking back at it now as a grown man, but there we go. So in about 75, he bought this 1974 Austin Allegro. It was quite a fancy one, a very early one, but it was quite a fancy one. I think it was a 1750 engine, so I think it went quite well for a small car. This is the famous vehicle which we were driving around in, and the wheel fell off. That well-known Allegro fault on the earlier Allegros. And it also had the square steering wheel, which is quite amusing. But yeah, this is a holiday pic of my mum there unloading the boot somewhere in the south of France in the trusty Austin Allegro. And that was replaced in about 78, I think it was, with this 1977 Chrysler Alpine, bright yellow. We used to call it the banana. Yeah, it's quite a jolly looking car, isn't it? This was the first of two Alpines he had. He really rated these. I mean, again, with my dad not being really a car person, they represented good value for a large car that was family orientated. It was a hatchback, which wasn't a given in the mid-70s, and yeah, they were noisy. I remember that. They were noisy engines. I think they were just 1.3s, these ones that he had. And the story goes that this was in for servicing at the Chrysler agent, and they offered him a silly deal on a brand new one, so he actually bought this 1979 white Alpine in replacement. And this is a photograph of it somewhere on probably a Welsh mountain pass, because he did like his mountains, so probably in Wales somewhere. This is the car that when it was brand new, he drove it on the very first day he owned it into the garage and hand painted the bumpers black because he thought it looked odd against the white paintwork. He thought it was okay with the yellow one previously, but they were sort of like white plasticky bumpers, and he thought it looked odd white on white. I can see where he was coming from, although it still seems a curious decision to hand paint bumpers on a brand new car, but I think he probably did quite a good job of it. So yeah, this was the white Alpine, and he kept that till about 1982. I think it was, and he replaced it with a second-hand vehicle. It wasn't new. I think the white Alpine was the only brand new car he ever bought. This 1980 beige Austin Princess. I remember it had quite an amusing reg number. It was Mud 500W. Yeah, Dad always reckoned this was the most comfortable car he ever owned, and was also his most favourite car. Quite an extraordinary choice as a favourite car, but there you go. That was my dad. He really liked it, and I seem to remember it had big russet coloured squashy velour seats in it, so I think he quite liked that. Now that went all the way through to 86, so he kept that a reasonable length of time, and he bought a 1985 Audi 80 1.8 GL. Now, this photograph is outside the family home in Chester with my dad's Audi 80 first. A very youthful 17-year-old me there looking at my mum's Nissan Cherry. And in front of that, my first car, the brown Austin Allegro. So it was the entire fleet lined up here. But as I say, if you've watched previous videos on this channel, you'll know that in latter years, I bought this Audi off him when he was going to get rid of it. And yeah, it was a really, really good car. We kept it in the family for a very long time and did over 100,000 miles in that car. It was a really, really good car. Another picture of it here. I think that's my mum standing to the side of it. I think that's the Lake District in the UK. I'm not sure. It's a holiday pic, but it's quite nice to see a different picture of the Audi 80. So I bought it off him in 1990 when he was going to sell it, and he replaced it with this 1989 2-litre Vauxhall Carlton. He'd retired by this stage, and Mum and Dad had very much got into caravanning, as you can see from these two family photos here. And yeah, that was quite a smart car, actually. I liked that. I don't think it was quite as well engineered as the Audi, but I think it was a good, competent car. and he was very pleased with it. So much so that when he decided to replace that, he stuck with the brand. And in 1996, I think he bought this 1994 Vauxhall Omega, which of course is sort of, you know, the next generation, because obviously the Carlton in Europe was called the Omega even in that earlier shape. So yeah, he stuck with the brand, and again, more caravanning, as you can see. Nice colour, this one. It was a really nice car. It had electric everything in that, you know, electric rear screens in the rear window, electric sunroof. Yeah, it was really, really comfy car. And again, he kept that quite a long time, until 2003, I think it was. And again, stuck with the brand and bought a revised shape Omega, as you can see here, the silver one. I think this was a 2.2 CD, which was the last car he ever owned. And obviously he gave up driving a few years before his passing. So not many cars, really, for such a long life. He lived till he was 96 years of age, bless him. And really, I probably had as many cars as this in perhaps any one given year in my past. But that's the difference between father and son. Neither is right, neither is wrong. It's just a different approach to transport. So, as I say, bit of a personal video. This is a tribute to Dad. Yeah, forgive some degree of repetition with a previous video, but gaining some original photographs, I wanted to put this out there as a tribute to him. Thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again with different videos, probably another car show very, very soon. Thank you.